Recently, I released a video where I talked about the last 10 years of Best Picture winners at the Oscars, and it was somewhat disappointing. And that sets the table for what I think was one of the best years ever for film, 2019. Now, all these movies came out in 2019, but they're being considered for the 2020 Oscars. So from this point on, we're going to call it 2020 Oscars. So with that being said, I'm just going to go through my ranking of all the Best Picture nominations of 2020. Number 9, Marriage Story. Marriage Story is my least favorite of all the nominations, and it is because I don't really enjoy the characters in the movie. I really enjoy the performances. I really like Adam Driver, and I also like Scarlett Johansson. I think that they're both very deserving of any sort of awards, nominations that they get. I think that they did an amazing job. And I actually also like a lot of the authenticity in the movie. It has a lot of good portrayals of dealing with lawyers during divorce and the kind of turmoil that it brings up out of each other. I enjoyed all those themes in Marriage Story, but what I did not enjoy was that these two people who are two leads in this movie are incredibly selfish people. I know that a lot of us can be very selfish, but it's almost not accessible to me because they don't really have redeemable qualities in their relationship. And I think that that's kind of what they're trying to say. What the point was is that, it's better that we're apart. We'll be happier. We'll even be better people when we're apart. And I think that that is a huge cop-out out of marriage. And I think that it is stupid to think that everyone who's married that they should be married, it's just true love, and they just get along so much better than other people who fight in their marriage. It's like, no, everyone fights in their marriage. Everyone has rough spots in their marriage. Everyone fights about finances, and there's a lot of marriages that have to deal with infidelity, either if that's cheating or getting involved in certain things. It is involved in every single marriage, and I think that it's a cop-out to say, it's a great thing for everyone to get divorced if you run into some rough patches in your marriage, and you'll be a lot happier. I just didn't like where Marriage Story took it, but like I said, I really enjoyed the performances. I like Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, but that's why Marriage Story is my least favorite of 2019. 2019 movie, 2020 Oscars. Number 8, Little Women. Little Women was a movie that I actually was not very excited for. Kind of marketed as a very feminist movie by all the dialogue that was in the trailers and how it was edited together. It just did not make me excited for this film. I thought it was going to be trying to jam this message down my throat yet again, but I actually really enjoyed Little Women. I haven't read the book, haven't seen previous adaptations, but I enjoyed this film. I think that it's just a little bit lower on my list because I don't really love the way that the story plays out non-linearly. I thought that it kind of jumbled up the story, and I would have much more appreciated a linear telling of the story, but I really enjoyed this film. I enjoyed all the romance aspects of it, how each of these 4 characters view marriage differently and how they're sort of transitioning from childhood to adulthood, seeing their relationships with their siblings also change growing up. I really enjoyed all those aspects of the film, but unfortunately there were just a lot better movies, or fortunately, there were a lot better movies that came out this year. Number 7, Parasite. Parasite is an incredibly original film, and that could be that it is a foreign film, so it doesn't necessarily feel like Hollywood made it, but I really enjoyed Parasite. It has a huge tone change halfway through the movie, and it works 100%. It has these two opposite tones. It has the humor, and then it also has the thrill, like horror aspects to it as well. And I really enjoyed it. I thought that the cinematography was amazing, and I think that it definitely should have been nominated for Best Picture, and I think that it's incredibly deserving. I think that it's kind of lame right now. I've been hearing a lot on YouTube videos and stuff where people are talking about how people in the Academy are possibly going to be awarding, Best Picture, in theory, to Parasite. I don't know who wins the award at this point, obviously, but they've been talking about giving it to Parasite, or everyone voting for Parasite, because it's an international film and the Academy wants to appear to be catering to more global audiences and trying to award more broader spectrum of movies. And I think that that is another lame reason to give a movie an award. I think that the movie should win the award if it absolutely 100% deserves it. And, Parasite is at a disadvantage. It's a foreign film. It didn't get out to like a ton of theaters like other movies would. And it also has subtitles across the whole thing. Now, the story is great. The acting is great. I love it. Don't get me wrong. But those are disadvantages, and that's just the truth. So I'd be kind of upset if Parasite won just because they wanted to appease a global audience, but I did enjoy the film. I think it's worthy of all the respect that it's getting. I just don't want it to be cheapened by not giving it the award based on merit and just based on an agenda. But I really enjoyed Parasite. Number 6, Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit is Taika Waititi's latest film. He also directed movies like Hunt for the Wilder People, and he also directed Thor Ragnarok, 2 great films. And Jojo Rabbit is probably his most well-made movie. Also, kind of like Parasite, as I've said before, is it handles 2 very different subject matter and tones. It takes Nazi Germany and it mixes some comedy in with it. We have our main character who's this young kid who's in Hitler's youth, and his imaginary best friend is Hitler, at least his perception of Hitler, and that guy is played by Taika Waititi, the director. And the dynamic between these two, their conversations that they have, basically Jojo talking to himself in his head, are great. And then also Scarlett Johansson as Jojo's mom does an amazing job. I think that she is a bright point of the movie. And, this movie captures a lot of great messages in the movie, just as, you're looking at some terrible time in history, obviously World War II, Nazi Germany, and then also seeing how people can fall into that. And, not saying that these people are just always far away from us, like the Nazis are like those people over there, or, people that would allow the Nazi regime to, come to power. They're over there, but no, it's like you're living in it with people who are in the country where it happened, and you can see the type of stress that it puts on everyone, obviously, the type of horrible things that have happened, and then also people like our main character who have accepted it and think that it's right because that's what they've been told. It has a lot of great things to look into. It can be very, not too serious at times, but appropriately communicating some of the serious tones. And then also getting back to an enjoyable film that has a lot of comedy in it. And I really enjoyed Jojo Rabbit. And if it won Best Picture, I'd be totally happy. Number 5, Ford vs. Ferrari. Ford vs. Ferrari is just a thoroughly entertaining movie. It clocks a runtime of 2.5 hours, but it honestly feels like barely 2 hours. This movie just moves by so quickly. The 2 actors, Matt Damon, Christian Bale, crossing each other, actually have amazing chemistry. Also, Christian Bale and the actress who plays his wife, I don't know her name, but they also have a great dynamic in the movie. Also, Christian Bale and his son. All these people have awesome relationships, and it plays out for an insanely entertaining movie. I saw it twice when it first came out. I saw it the Thursday because I wanted to see it, get my review out. And then, it came to the weekend and we're kind of thinking about something to do. My in-laws kind of wanted to do something and we're like, let's go see Ford versus Ferrari. And upon second viewing, it was also great. I love Ford versus Ferrari. It's well liked by everyone. I think that it probably won't win Best Picture, unfortunately, but it is one of my favorite movies of the year. Number 4, The Irishman. The Irishman is a return to form for Martin Scorsese into his crime drama epics, kind of dipping into the whole Godfather runtime. It's 3.5 hours long. It was made on Netflix, which is another notable thing, and I really enjoyed The Irishman. I think that his best movie is still Goodfellas, but The Irishman does a great job where it takes 2 of Martin Scorsese's sort of wheelhouses, religious reflection movies, and then he also likes to make the crime drama epic movies. And in The Irishman, he takes 2 of these and he blends them together. We have a crime epic, obviously, and then we also have the story being told from an older Robert De Niro's perspective. He's in a retirement home recalling his time in the mob with the Bufalino family. Did I nail it that time? Probably not. It kind of handles his time there, and then he's also showing a lot of instances where he has regret, seeing him and how it has affected a lot of his relationships with his daughters and such. And this movie is very entertaining. It's very long. It's not one that a ton of people are going to rewatch because of the runtime, but I really enjoyed it. It has some very cool de-aging technologies that were used, and I really enjoyed The Irishman. It's one of my favorite Martin Scorsese movies, and that's why I think it has a pretty good shot of winning Best Picture. Number 3, Joker. Joker has one of the best performances of 2019 with Joaquin Phoenix, who plays Arthur Fleck, and his journey into becoming the comic villain of Batman, Joker. We see Arthur Fleck and how he has a lot of mental illness issues, and then he just also has a society that isn't too kind to him. And also behind this movie, behind the scenes, behind everything, there was a lot of controversy going into this movie. We had all the mainstream media telling us all that you're going to go to this movie and you better watch out because at every theater that is going to be shown at, there's a likelihood of some rando showing up and wanting to shoot everyone because of the film. Not because people are crazy, but because of the film. And they were basically begging for this to happen. And they just tried to stir up so much controversy. And guess what? None of it happened. This movie went on to make $1 billion. $1 billion. This movie had an insanely small budget. And Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix had to go through so much crap in all of their interviewing processes while they were promoting their film. They were all promoting this sort of helter-skelter charade around the movie, saying that it was just going to incite so much violence, and none of that happened. This movie was an artistic expression where they took a comic book character and did something totally original with him, and I really like Joker. I think Batman is probably my favorite superhero of all time. And I just have a lot of nostalgia for the character. And obviously Joker is probably one of the greatest villains ever. Not just for comic books, but one of the greatest villains ever. We had a great performance like 10 years ago or so, a little bit more than 10 years ago, by Heath Ledger. He just made the role more iconic than it had ever been before. And then we had a little bit of a disappointing performance from Jared Leto. And then we have it taken up again by Joaquin Phoenix. And Joaquin Phoenix did an amazing job with this. He needs to get Best Actor now. He's going to walk away with that award, I think, and it is totally deserving. And the film also is worthy of the same merit. And I think that Joker has a very good shot of winning Best Picture. It's amazing that this movie won or was nominated the most out of any other film. It walked away with 11 nominations, and I thought that was kind of funny because you think that the media and the critics kind of overlap in opinion with the Academy members, but I'm really happy that the Academy is recognizing this film as much as they are, and I really think that also Joker can walk away with the biggest award of the night. Number 2, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is one of my favorite movies that Quentin Tarantino has ever made. He is one of the greatest directors ever, along with Martin Scorsese and all those people. He is up there, and I think that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is one of his greatest. I think that this movie was wholly entertaining. It is mostly just a bromantic comedy, but it also harkens back to a lot of old Western movie themes and how sort of Hollywood has changed over the years. It's looking back into the time when he was a kid, the type of things that he used to watch and how he perceived Hollywood. And it also is a little bit of revisionist history sprinkled in there towards the end of the movie, which just leads to an exhilarating last act. And it is just hilarious. It's dark humor, but the movie is extremely entertaining. I think that out of all the Best Picture nominees, this is the one that I've rewatched the most because I just don't get tired of it. The acting from Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are great. The aesthetic and how he kind of recreates and does his whole, set design, production design, all the makeup and hairstyling and costume design, all of it just fits super well into this era. The way that they talk and, how they portray hippies in the movie and how other people portray their disdain for hippies was all perfect for me. And it is such an enjoyable movie. It is a lot more digestible than some of his other films. He has a lot of dark comedy, a lot of violence in his movies, and also great dialogue, which he has in this movie too. But this movie is just so entertaining. And I think that if this movie won Best Picture, I'd be totally happy. But I think that there was one more movie that is just a little bit more deserving. Number 1, 1917. 1917 is not only my favorite movie of all these nominees, but it was my favorite movie of 2019, and here's why. The movie has so much right going on inside of it. Technically, it has the one-shot kind of aesthetic where the editing is hidden and you are following these two soldiers in World War I in 1917 for the British Army and their trek to deliver a message to another group of British soldiers and saving all of their lives to not be ambushed by the German army. This is just a nail-biting journey where these young soldiers are going through enemy lines, going through the German territory, across no man's land, across these, wrecked cities, and not knowing where the enemy is around them, and them not also having, firepower behind themselves. It's just them two trying to get to their destination, deliver this message to save lives, and it just works in every way. We have these two characters who are played by actors that we don't really know, so it doesn't really have that movie star effect to it. But these guys are just able to convey their characters so well in their acting. Around them, they're faced with an incredible evil and the type of heroes that they have to become just in these small-scale interactions, whether it's saving each other from certain death or protecting other people or sacrificing and offering something to people in need in this film. And then also just obviously going on this journey to save thousands of their fellow troops' lives. This movie just is transcendent in my mind. I don't think of very many movies as transcendent as I think that, this is just a storytelling perspective, and what they're trying, and what movies should be doing is trying to capture truths that we know and that, kind of reflect reality. And I think that 1917 is a perfect example of that, of capturing one of the greatest things of reality, of true heroic action in really dark times, knowing that you're not a superhero, you're not someone who can save the world, but you can do something where you're at and make a bigger difference than just not doing anything. And I thought that this movie just truly had great characters through a great story. And that's why I think that 1917 should win Best Picture in 2020. So that's my ranking of the 2020 Oscar nominations for Best Picture. I am totally stoked with the list that we got, all the movies that were nominated. I enjoyed pretty much every single one of these movies. I think that 2019 was a great year for film. It's probably the greatest year that I've been alive for film. I just thoroughly enjoy all of these nominees, and even though only one movie is going to walk away with the Best Picture award, I think that all these movies should be commended for what they did, and they'll be watched by me for many years to come. So thank you guys for watching my video. If you could please press the like button, I would appreciate it. Also press the subscribe and notification bell. You'll be notified all of my new content. And then if you also might not have a YouTube account or you want to follow me on Instagram, you can do so at Jared Gilster, my name. And I post when I'm releasing my new content there, so you'll be notified. And then I guess I'll just see you guys the next time I release a good old video. So I'll see you then.